Okay, so today's video is going to cover the rest of our notes for section 1.2. And we're mostly going to be, well, not mostly, we are going to be completely focusing on multiplying different types of polynomials. So the first thing I want to talk about is when you're going to multiply a monomial to a polynomial. Okay, so remember a monomial is a polynomial that only has one term, so we're not adding and subtracting anything. Polynomials have several terms, right? This is a trinomial, but this rule applies anytime you've got a monomial and you're taking it into something larger. So we're going to use our distributive property, which remember means that we're going to take this and multiply it here, and we're going to multiply it here, and we're going to multiply it here, right? So you use the distributive property. All right, so let's do our first arrow. So we have negative 3x squared times 5x squared. So we're going to multiply our coefficients. So negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. And then remember from our exponent rules, right, x squared times x squared would become x to the fourth, right? So since we're multiplying, our exponents are going to change, and we're going to add them together. Okay, for our next one, I'm going to go ahead and make that arrow blue so we can kind of color code. We're going to do negative 3x squared times negative 8x. So negative 3 times negative 8 is going to give us a positive 24. And then x squared times x to the first is going to become x to the third. Remember, this has an invisible 1 exponent, so 2 plus 1 gives us our 3 here. And then finally, we'll do our last one in red. Right, so negative 3x squared times 1 is going to, so you have negative 3 times 1 is a negative 3, and then since there's no x squared stuff here, you just bring your x squared over. All right, and this is your final answer. So again, our exponent rules still apply. We just multiply our coefficients together and then use our exponent rules to multiply our exponents in our variables. All right, so the next polynomial multiplication method we're going to use works only for two binomials. So binomials are things that have two terms, right? So there's 1, 2 for the first binomial, and then 1, 2 for the second one. So if you're multiplying two things like this together, we're going to use what's called the FOIL method. This should be familiar to those of you that had me for Algebra 1 or had Miss Odell for Algebra 1. So FOIL means we're going to do our first, right? So the first two terms of our binomial. So we're going to take our 3x times our 2x. So those are the first ones in each. So 3 times 2 is 6, x times x is x squared. Next, our O stands for outside, so we're going to take the two terms on the very outside, so our 3x, and we're going to multiply it by our y. So that would become 3xy, right? We can't combine our x and y together because they are two different bases. Our I is inside, so the two terms on the very inside. So 4 times 2 is 8. Then we have an x and a y again. I always write them in alphabetical order. I try to keep them the same. That way it's easier when we go to combine like terms. Right, but you could have put yx there and it would mean the same thing. And then finally we have our last. So we're going to take our last two terms. 4y times y will be 4y squared. All right, now that we've done that, we take our middle two, since they have like terms, and we're going to add those together. So this is just going to get brought down. That will get brought down. So we have 6x squared plus 8 plus 3 is 11xy. Remember, when you're adding your exponents and variables, stay the same. And then you add a 4y squared. at the end because you just bring it down. And that is how you FOIL. Okay, so our last multiplication method is when you have a binomial and a polynomial, or even a larger polynomial and a larger polynomial. So this works kind of for everything. This also technically works for the two binomials, but I just know that most people are fairly comfortable with FOIL, but either way that works. So this is just like a really long distributive method. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the first term of our binomial, in this case is 2x, and we're going to take that and we're going to distribute it and multiply it to every part of our other polynomial. Right, so let's do that first. So we have 2x times x squared, so our coefficient of 2 stays the same, and then x times x squared is x to the third. Next, we're going to do our 2x times our negative 6x. So 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. X times x is x squared. Then finally, we're going to do 2x times negative 2. So 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. And then we bring our x over from our 2x. All right, next, we're going to take our 3 and we're going to multiply it to every part. So let's go ahead and do that. And we're just going to tack it on the end here. And then we'll combine like terms when we're done. So we're going to do 3 times x squared to get a positive 3x squared. Then we're going to do positive 3 times negative 6x, which is negative 18x. And then we have 3 times negative 2, which is a negative 6. So now we're going to use our combining like terms method that we talked about for the first part of 1.2. So we have a negative 12x squared and a positive 3x squared. We have a negative 4x and a negative 18x. And the other stuff we just bring on down. So we're going to bring down our 2x to the third. Right, and then we're going to do negative 12 plus 3. And that will give us a negative 9x squared. And then we do negative 4x and negative 18x, which gives us a negative 22x. And then we just bring down our minus 6, right, just like we brought down our 2x to the third. So then our final answer is 2x to the third minus 9x squared minus 22x minus 6. So if you would have a third term here, you would just do that process one more time. So like whatever the third term is, you're going to multiply it to each one, stick it on the end, and combine like terms. All right, so you've got an assignment to work on. Work through that. Again, if you have any questions, please post it in the Wednesday discussion board. That way I can make sure I work those problems out for you in Wednesday's homework review video. Remember, to get full credit for your assignment, you have to attempt every problem, right? I fully believe that you all are capable of attempting every single one of these problems. Please reach out if you need some extra help.